The Galactic Council had classified Earth as a death world for good reason. Its gravity was punishing, its atmosphere corrosive, its temperature variations extreme, and its wildlife savage. But when Admiral Bren of the Novan Confederation received orders to establish a listening post on the blue planet's moon, he wasn't concerned about Earth's natural dangers. "The natives are primitive," he told his crew as their ship decelerated into lunar orbit. "Pre-spaceflight civilization. They won't even know we're here." Lieutenant Dax, his second-in-command, wasn't so sure. "Intelligence reports suggest they're advancing rapidly, sir. They've already visited their moon several times." Bren dismissed her concerns with a wave of his three-fingered hand. "Primitive rockets. Barely functioning life support. They won't be back anytime soon." The Novan base was constructed within a lunar crater, shielded from Earth observation by advanced cloaking technology. 20 crew members settled in for their 5-year mission. Monitor Earth communications, study the humans, and report any significant technological advances. For the first 3 months, everything proceeded according to protocol. The humans remained oblivious to the alien presence watching them from 238th and 900 miles away. Until the accident. Engineer Trill was performing routine maintenance on the external sensor array when his tether snapped. The magnetic boots that should have kept him anchored to the lunar surface malfunctioned, and he drifted helplessly into space. The emergency retrieval drone barely reached him in time. "Something interfered with our systems," Trill reported after his rescue. "Some kind of energy pulse from Earth." The incident prompted Bren to authorize a closer investigation. A stealth probe was dispatched to orbit Earth, designed to be undetectable by human technology. What it discovered alarmed the entire Novan crew. "They're testing experimental weapons," Dax reported, displaying the probe's findings on the command center's main screen. "These energy signatures match nothing in our database." Bren studied the readings with growing concern. They shouldn't have this capability. Not for centuries. "There's more," Dax continued. "Their global communications network is far more sophisticated than our initial assessments indicated. And they're discussing concepts that suggest they understand fundamental principles of quantum mechanics and dimensional physics." "Impossible," Bren muttered, but the evidence was undeniable. The Novans increased their surveillance, intercepting and translating human communications from around the globe. They discovered references to classified projects and breakthrough technologies that hinted at capabilities far beyond what should be possible for a species at this stage of development. Then came the most disturbing discovery of all. "Sir," called Analyst Pell from his monitoring station, "I've detected unusual activity at one of their polar research facilities. They appear to be excavating something." The probe's long-range sensors focused on the Antarctic site, where humans in protective gear were carefully extracting an object from the ice. When the image cleared, Bren felt his blood run cold. That's not possible," he whispered. The humans had uncovered the remains of a spacecraft, not human in origin, and certainly not Novan. "Sir," Dax said quietly, "that ship matches the design of a Zenith scout vessel. The Zenith disappeared from our galaxy 5 million years ago. And now we know where they went," Bren replied grimly. "The question is, what happened to them?" As they watched, the humans loaded the ancient spacecraft onto a transport vehicle with practiced efficiency, as if they'd done this before. As if this wasn't the first alien technology they'd discovered. Bren made his decision. "Prepare a direct transmission to High Command. Priority Alpha. The humans are not primitive. They are dangerous. And I fear they are preparing for war." Novan High Command's response was swift. "Maintain observation. Do not engage. Reinforcements en route." Bren acknowledged the orders but couldn't shake his unease. Something about the humans' handling of the Zenith craft suggested not surprise, but confirmation. They knew what they were looking for, he told Dax as they reviewed the footage again. This wasn't a chance discovery. The probe continued monitoring the Antarctic facility, tracking the alien craft as it was transported to a massive underground complex hidden beneath an innocuous research station. There, human scientists in specialized containment suits began a methodical dissection of the technology. "Their approach is unsettling," observed Pell. "They're not treating it as something unknown. They're comparing it to existing data. Meanwhile, Engineer Trill completed his analysis of the energy pulse that had nearly killed him. It wasn't a weapon, he reported, surprising everyone. It was a scan, an incredibly powerful directed burst designed to map everything in its path down to the quantum level. They were scanning the moon, Bren realized. Looking for us? Or looking for something else, Dax suggested. Something they suspected was there. The Novans intensified their monitoring of Earth communications, focusing particularly on encrypted military and scientific channels. What they found painted a disturbing picture. Humanity wasn't just aware of extraterrestrial life. They had been preparing for contact or conflict for decades. They've recovered other crash sites, Pell reported, compiling data from intercepted files. Not just Zenith technology. There are references to at least 3 other distinct alien sources. Bren studied the evidence with growing alarm. They're reverse engineering everything they find, integrating it with their own technology. A week later, the probe detected unusual activity at a remote desert facility. Massive energy readings spiked before an experimental craft rose vertically from an underground hangar. Its design was unlike any human vehicle they'd observed before, with elements clearly inspired by non-terrestrial technology. The craft hovered silently, then accelerated. At a rate that should have been impossible for Earth technology. It reached the edge of the atmosphere in seconds, then disappeared from conventional sensors. Where did it go? Bren demanded. Trill adjusted the probe's detection parameters. It's still there, but it's phased slightly out of normal space-time. Not fully cloaked, but shifted. Like Zenith phase technology, Dax whispered. The implications were staggering. Humans weren't just studying alien technology. They had mastered aspects of it, and were now testing practical applications. The craft reappeared in normal space and returned to Earth, but the demonstration had made one thing clear. Humanity was far more advanced than anyone in the Galactic Council had suspected. The reinforcements won't arrive for 2 weeks, Bren said, making a difficult decision. We need more information now. Prepare a surface mission. Sir? Dax questioned. Our orders were to observe only. The situation has changed, Bren replied grimly. If humans have mastered phase technology, they could detect our base at any moment. We need to know exactly what we're dealing with. Lieutenant Dax, along with Security Officer Cree and xenobiologist Mira, were selected for the dangerous mission. Using a shuttle equipped with the Novan's best stealth technology, they would infiltrate the Antarctic facility and gather intelligence on the recovered Zenith craft. Remember, Bren told the team before departure, absolute non-detection is the priority. If discovered, retreat immediately. Do not engage with humans under any circumstances. As the shuttle detached from the lunar base and began its approach to Earth, none of them realized they were already being watched. The Novan shuttle entered Earth's atmosphere under cover of night, its advanced stealth systems rendering it invisible to conventional radar. Lieutenant Dax piloted the craft with practiced precision, following a flight path designed to mimic the trajectory of space debris to further mask their approach. Thermal imaging shows minimal personnel at the target facility, reported Cree, monitoring the security systems. Most humans appear to be in their sleep cycle. Perfect timing, Dax replied, guiding the shuttle to a landing site 2 kilometers from the Antarctic complex. Remember, we're here to gather intelligence only. No samples, no interference. The 3 Novans donned environmental suits designed to protect them from Earth's harsh conditions. Gravity compensators helped them adjust to the planet's crushing pull, while atmosphere filters processed the oxygen-rich air into something their bodies could tolerate. They emerged onto the frozen landscape, the perpetual Antarctic night concealing their alien forms. Snow crunched beneath their boots as they activated their personal cloaking fields and began the trek toward the facility. Incredible, whispered xenobiologist Mira, her sensors taking readings of the environment. This planet is teeming with microbial life, even here in these extreme conditions. The adaptability is remarkable. Stay focused, Cree reminded her. Those adaptable life forms aren't our concern. They approached the perimeter of the facility, a collection of prefabricated buildings connected by enclosed walkways, all partially buried in snow. Security was surprisingly minimal. A few cameras, motion sensors, and a handful of guards making routine patrols. They're not expecting visitors, Dax observed. Not out here. Using a phase shift device, they passed through a solid wall into an empty storage room. The interior of the facility was warm, forcing them to adjust their environmental controls. They followed the schematics they'd compiled from orbital scans, making their way deeper into the complex. Life signs ahead, Cree warned as they approached a laboratory section. 4 humans, still active despite the hour. They carefully navigated around the occupied room and continued toward their primary target, the hangar where the Zenith craft was being stored. As they drew near, their instruments began detecting unusual energy signatures. "That's not Zenith technology," Mira said with concern. "At least, not purely. It's been modified." They reached an observation window overlooking the hangar and froze at the site below. The Zenith scout vessel was there, partially disassembled, its components spread across multiple workstations. But it wasn't alone. The hangar contained pieces of what appeared to be at least 2 other alien craft of different designs. Most alarming was what stood at the center of the hangar, a prototype vessel clearly of human construction, but incorporating elements from all 3 alien technologies. Engineers worked around it, their movements suggesting not experimentation but refinement, as if they were putting final touches on a completed design rather than testing unknown concepts. They're not just reverse engineering, Dax realized. They're improving, combining different alien technologies in ways the original creators never attempted. How is this possible? Mira wondered. They shouldn't have the theoretical framework to understand these principles, let alone integrate them. Cree moved to access a nearby computer terminal, using a non-invasive interface to browse through files. According to these records, they've been recovering alien technology for over 70 years. They have a dedicated agency, multiple agencies, focused entirely on adapting extraterrestrial technology for human use. Dax was about to respond when an alarm suddenly blared throughout the facility. Red lights flashed, and sealed doors began closing automatically. "Did they detect us?" Mira asked frantically. Cree checked his equipment. "No, our cloaking fields are functioning perfectly. This is something else." A voice came over the facility's announcement system. "Code Omega. Repeat, Code Omega. This is not a drill. All personnel to secure stations. Visitors inbound." The 3 Novans exchanged worried glances. "Visitors?" Dax questioned. Their answer came moments later, as the massive hangar doors began to open. Through the gap, they could see the night sky and a light descending from above. Not the harsh brightness of a human aircraft, but the subtle glow of another ship using technology far beyond Earth's supposed capabilities. "We need to transmit what we've found to the base," Dax decided, activating her secure communicator. "Admiral Bren needs to know." Her words were cut short as the facility's lights suddenly went out, plunging everything into darkness. When emergency power activated seconds later, the Novans found themselves surrounded by humans in black tactical gear. Weapons raised, expressions grim but unsurprised. "Interesting," said one who appeared to be the leader. "These aren't the ones we were expecting." Admiral Bren paced the command center of the lunar base, anxiety growing with each passing minute. "Still no communication from the surface team?" "Nothing, sir," replied Communications Officer Jax. "We lost contact 23 minutes ago mid-transmission. The partial data they'd received was troubling enough. Humans with multiple alien technologies, systematically integrating them into their own designs." But the sudden silence from Dax's team suggested something had gone very wrong. "Prepare another shuttle," Bren ordered. "We need to—" "Sir," interrupted sensor operator Vela. "Multiple objects leaving Earth's atmosphere, accelerating rapidly." The main display showed a dozen craft rising from different points around the planet, their design similar to the experimental vessel they'd observed earlier. They moved with impossible speed and precision, forming a perfect orbital pattern. "They're scanning," Trill reported, monitoring the energy signatures. "The same type of quantum-level scan that affected my equipment." Bren made a quick decision. "Full stealth protocols. Power down all non-essential systems. Prepare for possible evacuation." The lunar base dimmed as the Novans reduced their energy footprint to minimal levels. On the screens, they watched the human vessels methodically sweep Earth's orbit, then extend their search outward. "They're looking for something," Bren murmured. "Or someone." "Sir," Vela said quietly, "one of the vessels has changed course. It's heading toward the moon, directly toward us." Despite their stealth technology, despite the power reduction, The human craft adjusted its trajectory with unerring accuracy, zeroing in on the hidden Novan base. They know we're here, Bren realized. Somehow, they've known all along. Before he could issue new orders, a transmission came through on all frequencies, bypassing their communication security as if it didn't exist. "Attention Novan observation. Post," came a calm human voice, speaking perfect galactic standard. "This is Director Thomas of Earth's Extraterrestrial Defense Initiative. Your presence has been monitored since your arrival. We have detained your surface team. They are unharmed, but will remain in protective custody." Bren exchanged shocked looks with his officers before responding. "This is Admiral Bren of the Novan Confederation. How do you know our language? How did you detect our base?" "We've had considerable practice with both, Admiral," replied Director Thomas. "Your Confederation isn't the first to study Earth from a distance, just the most recent." On the display, more human vessels were approaching the moon, taking positions that effectively surrounded the Novan base. "What happened to our surface team?" Bren demanded. "As I said, they're safe. They attempted to infiltrate a secure facility, and were intercepted. Standard protocol. We've been dealing with unauthorized visitors for quite some time." Bren tried to process this revelation. "You're saying other alien species have been observing Earth?" "Observing. Sampling. Occasionally. Attempting small-scale infiltration or resource extraction," Thomas confirmed. "We've been aware of extraterrestrial interest in our planet for generations. We've recovered enough technology and information to understand the basics of galactic politics. We know about the Confederation, the Council, and the classification of Earth as a death world. The humans' knowledge was impossible, yet undeniable." Bren made a difficult decision. "I propose a meeting, Director Thomas, neutral ground, to discuss the situation and the return of my people." "Agreed," came the immediate reply. "Though I should warn you, Admiral, your reinforcements won't be joining you. The battle group that departed Novan space 12 days ago has been intercepted and escorted away from our solar system." Bren felt a cold sensation spread through his body. "That's impossible. You don't have that capability. Perhaps by Confederation standards, we shouldn't," Thomas acknowledged. "But necessity has been the mother of invention. When you're considered prey by the galaxy at large, you learn to adapt quickly." The implications were staggering. Humans hadn't just reverse-engineered a few pieces of salvage technology. They had developed an entire secret space program and defense force, capable of detecting and countering threats from species far more advanced than themselves. "One final note, Admiral," Director Thomas added. "We've been monitoring your communications with your High Command. I want to assure you, Earth has no hostile intentions toward the Confederation or any other galactic power. We simply protect our own." As the transmission ended, Bren gazed at the human vessels surrounding his base and came to a disturbing realization. The galaxy had been wrong about Earth. Its harsh environment wasn't what made it dangerous. Its inhabitants were. The meeting took place aboard a human vessel positioned halfway between Earth and the lunar base. Admiral Bren, accompanied by Engineer Trill, arrived via shuttle to find an environment carefully designed to accommodate Novan physiology, adjusted gravity, atmospheric composition, even lighting calibrated to their visual comfort. "Welcome, Admiral," greeted Director Thomas, a tall human with gray hair and the bearing of someone accustomed to authority. "I apologize for the circumstances of our first contact." Bren observed the human vessel with professional interest. The integration of various technologies was seamless, suggesting decades of refinement rather than recent acquisition. "Where are my people?" he asked directly. "They'll be returned shortly," Thomas assured him. "First, I believe we have matters to discuss." They were led to a conference room where, to Bren's surprise, his captured team waited. Dax, Kree, and Mira appeared unharmed, though clearly uncomfortable. "Admiral," Dax reported, "they've treated us correctly, but they knew exactly how to neutralize our equipment. They were prepared specifically for Novan physiology and technology." Thomas nodded. "We maintain detailed files on most spacefaring species. The Zenith were particularly thorough in their records before they departed." "Departed?" Bren questioned. "We found their scout ship in your ice. We assumed they crashed." "Some did," Thomas acknowledged. "Others chose to stay. Some even interbred with humans. though that's classified beyond my authorization to discuss fully. The revelation stunned the Novans. Thomas continued, activating a holographic display showing a timeline of Earth's secret extraterrestrial history. Humanity has been aware of alien life for millennia, he explained. Most early contacts were interpreted through religious or mythological frameworks. More substantive interaction began in the mid-20th century, when multiple species began active observation and occasional intervention. The display showed recovered craft, autopsy reports of non-human beings, and classified documents spanning decades. By the 1960s, we had recovered enough technology to begin our own space program. The public one, that is. The classified program, developed in parallel, focusing on reverse engineering and adaptation. But how? Trill asked, professional curiosity overcoming his caution. The technological gap would have been insurmountable. 2 factors, Thomas replied. First, human ingenuity and adaptability shouldn't be underestimated. Second, we had help. Help? Bren repeated skeptically. Not all visitors came with scientific or strategic motives. Some were refugees, deserters, or simply curious individuals who chose to ally with us. They provided context and understanding that accelerated our progress exponentially. The display showed images of what appeared to be aliens living among humans, some with subtle disguises, others in protected environments designed for their needs. Currently, Earth hosts representatives from 27 non-human species, Thomas continued. Some are public figures, though their origins remain classified. Others work directly with our advanced technology divisions. Bren struggled to reconcile this information with everything the Confederation believed about Earth. Why the secrecy? If you have this capability, why maintain the appearance of a pre-spacefaring civilization? Thomas smiled thinly. Strategic advantage. The galaxy at large considers Earth a developmental backwater, dangerous but primitive. This gives us time to prepare, to build our defenses and establish our position before formal contact. Prepare. For what? Cree asked. For whatever comes, Thomas answered simply. History, both yours and ours, suggests that first contact between civilizations with technological disparities rarely ends well for the less advanced society. We chose to level the playing field first. Bren considered this pragmatic, if paranoid, approach. And now? You've revealed yourselves to us. Because you were already here, and because your reinforcements were approaching. We prefer controlled disclosure to potential conflict. What do you want from the Confederation? Bren asked, getting to the point. Initially, non-interference and discretion. Your report to your high command will significantly impact humanity's first official steps into galactic society. We're prepared for that inevitability now, but would prefer it happen on negotiated terms. And if we refuse? Thomas's expression remained calm, but his eyes hardened slightly. Then we demonstrate why even advanced civilizations should approach Earth with caution. But I believe we can find a more productive path forward. As if to emphasize the point, the ship's sensors detected a new energy signature. On the display, they watched as a massive portal opened in space near Earth's moon. Unlike any technology the Novans had seen before. What is that? Trill asked, astonished. A practical application of theoretical physics your scientists haven't quite solved yet, Thomas replied. We call it a fold gate. Instant transportation across vast distances. Through the portal, they glimpsed what appeared to be another star system entirely. This particular gate connects to what you call the Andromeda Galaxy, Thomas added casually. We've established outposts in 17 galaxies so far. The implication was clear. Humanity wasn't just prepared to defend Earth. They had already expanded far beyond what the Confederation believed possible. Bren made his decision. I believe, Director Thomas, that the Novan Confederation would be interested in formal diplomatic relations with Earth. Thomas smiled. That's exactly what we were hoping to hear. 1 year later, Admiral Bren stood on the observation deck of the Galactic Council's diplomatic station, watching the arrival of the first official Earth delegation. The massive human vessel emerged from a fold gate, its design elegant yet unmistakably powerful, flanked by smaller craft that moved with perfect coordination. Quite the statement they're making, remarked High Counselor Zeth, the Novan representative to the Council. Subtle, yet impossible to ignore. Bren nodded. That's humanity. In a nutshell, Counselor. The past year had been transformative for galactic politics. Following Bren's report, carefully worded after extensive negotiation with Director Thomas, the Novan Confederation had established preliminary diplomatic relations with Earth. Other major powers had followed suit, some eagerly, others with trepidation. The revelation that humans had mastered technologies from multiple alien sources and improved upon them had sent shockwaves through scientific communities across known space. The discovery that they had already expanded beyond their solar system, establishing outposts in other galaxies using their fold-gate technology, had strategic analysts working overtime to recalculate the balance of power. I still don't understand why they waited so long, Zeth mused. With their capabilities, they could have announced themselves to the galaxy decades ago. They weren't ready, Bren replied. Not by their standards, at least. Humans are methodical beneath their apparent impulsiveness. They wanted to enter galactic society from a position of strength, not as supplicants or curiosities. The human vessel docked with perfect precision. Minutes later, the Earth delegation emerged onto the diplomatic station, a diverse group representing various regions and specialties. At their head walked Director Thomas, now bearing the title of Earth's first galactic ambassador. The formal reception was a carefully choreographed affair, with representatives from 20 major spacefaring civilizations in attendance. Many had never encountered humans before, and watched with undisguised curiosity as the Earth delegation moved through the gathering. Bren noticed something interesting. The humans seemed completely at ease despite being surrounded by alien species, while many of the galactic representatives appeared slightly uncomfortable in their presence. The psychological dynamic was subtle but unmistakable. Somehow, humans had managed to position themselves as equals or even subtle superiors in their first official galactic function. Admiral Bren, Thomas greeted him warmly when they finally had a moment to speak privately. It's good to see you again. Ambassador, Bren replied. Congratulations on your new position. Thomas smiled. A significant change from running a classified agency, but the principles remain the same. Protect Earth's interests while fostering beneficial relationships. And how are those interests defined these days? Bren asked carefully. Expansion, exchange, and security, Thomas answered. We're particularly interested in cultural and scientific exchange. Humanity has much to learn from the galactic community. Despite your technological advantages in certain areas, different paths of development lead to different innovations, Thomas said diplomatically. We've made remarkable progress in propulsion, energy generation, and dimensional physics. But we're centuries behind in biological sciences, terraforming, and sustainable ecosystem management. A pragmatic assessment, Bren thought, and likely calculated to seem reasonable and balanced. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of a Makari representative, a species known for their aggressive expansion and general disdain for younger civilizations. So these are the famous humans, the Makari diplomat said, mandibles clicking in what his species considered a smile. We've heard much about your creative use of acquired technologies. The subtle insult, implying humans were mere scavengers, rather than innovators, hung in the air. Bren tensed, but Thomas merely smiled. Acquired, adapted, and advanced, he replied smoothly, much as the Makari did with Draxian shield technology 3 centuries ago. Though we've found ways to improve efficiency by approximately 340% beyond your current implementations. The Makari's compound eyes widened slightly. The information about their shields wasn't public knowledge, and the specific efficiency metrics were supposed to be a closely guarded secret. We look forward to productive exchanges with the Makari hegemony, Thomas continued pleasantly, particularly regarding your territorial claims in the Cygnus sector, which overlap with an Earth outpost established 50 years ago. I'm sure we can resolve the matter diplomatically. The Makari diplomat retreated shortly thereafter, visibly disturbed. That was rather direct, Bren observed once they were alone again. Thomas shrugged. A calculated demonstration. The Makari respect strength and information advantage. We just established both. Bren realized that humanity's entry into galactic politics wasn't just about technology or military capability. It was about intelligence. Somehow, they had accumulated detailed knowledge about virtually every major power, while keeping their own capabilities obscured until now. "How long have you been watching us?" Bren asked suddenly. "Not just the Confederation, but everyone?" Thomas considered the question. Earth established its first extrasolar monitoring station approximately 120 years ago, using adapted zenith technology. Our network now covers roughly 70% of the known galaxy, with particular focus on major political and military centers. The scale of the operation was staggering. "All without detection?" "We had good teachers," Thomas replied cryptically, "and necessity, as I mentioned before, is quite the motivator." As the reception continued, Bren observed the human delegation carefully. They moved through the gathering with surprising effectiveness, each member engaging with different species, building connections, gathering information. It was a masterclass in diplomatic integration, clearly the result of extensive preparation and intelligence work. Earth's emergence onto the galactic stage wasn't an entrance. It was an unveiling. They had been there all along, watching, learning, preparing. And now, Bren realized, the galaxy would never be the same. 5 years after Earth's official entry into galactic society, Admiral Bren, now retired and serving as a special advisor to the Novan Diplomatic Corps, stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Terran embassy on Novus Prime. The massive structure combined architectural elements from cultures across Earth, with subtle nods to various alien influences, creating something distinctly human yet universally appealing. "Quite impressive, isn't it?" asked a familiar voice. Bren turned to find Director Thomas, no, Ambassador Thomas now, approaching. Despite the years, the human showed few signs of aging beyond some additional gray at his temples. "Humans never do anything halfway, I've noticed," Bren replied with a gesture toward the embassy. "When you build to last." Thomas smiled. "A national characteristic that served us well during our preparatory phase, and continues to serve us now." The preparatory phase, humanity's elegant term for their centuries of secret technological development and galactic surveillance, was now openly acknowledged, though many details remained classified. The revelation had initially caused alarm among some galactic powers, but Earth's careful diplomacy and strategic technology sharing had gradually transformed apprehension into cautious partnership. "I've been reviewing the new treaty proposal," Bren said, changing the subject. "Joint defense of the Orion Spur seems inevitable now that the Kithran situation has escalated." The Kithrans, a hostile, expansionist species from the galactic rim, had emerged as a common threat, bringing former rivals together in mutual defense. Earth's fold-gate technology had become the linchpin of the Alliance's strategy, allowing for rapid response to Kithran incursions across multiple fronts. "The Council votes tomorrow," Thomas confirmed. "All indications suggest approval. The defensive grid will extend from Novan space through the Sol system and outward to the Pleiades coalition territories." Bren nodded thoughtfully. 5 years. Ago, many on the Council considered humans dangerous upstarts. Now they're entrusting their security to your technology. "Circumstances change perspective," Thomas replied. "The Kithran threat has been clarifying for everyone involved." They walked together through the embassy gardens, where Earth plants had been carefully adapted to thrive in Novus Prime's environment. The result was beautiful, familiar yet alien, a fitting metaphor for humanity's integration into galactic society. "There's something I've wondered for years," Bren said finally. "Something that's never been fully explained." "Ask," Thomas invited, "though I can't promise a complete answer." "The Zenith. You said some stayed on Earth, even interbred with humans. Is that why your species adapted so quickly to alien technology? Some kind of genetic advantage?" Thomas considered the question carefully before responding. "Not exactly, though there is a connection. The Zenith who remained on Earth did contribute to our development, but not primarily through genetics. They contributed knowledge, perspective, and most importantly, warnings." "Warnings?" "About patterns they'd observed across thousands of worlds and civilizations. About what happens to species that reveal themselves too soon or too late. About the importance of entering the galactic community from a position of knowledge and strength." Thomas paused by a fountain whose design, incorporated mathematical patterns common to both human and Novan aesthetics. The Zenith themselves were refugees from another disaster, a civilization that expanded too quickly, encountered a superior force, and was nearly eradicated. They came to Earth not just to study us, but to preserve something of themselves. They recognized in humans a potential they had lost: adaptability, creativity, and determination, bordering on stubbornness. So they guided your development? Bren asked. They offered perspective and occasional technical assistance, Thomas clarified. But human advancement was primarily our own work. The Zenith and other friendly visitors provided context. The why more than the how. A subtle but important distinction, Bren thought. Humanity hadn't simply been uplifted by advanced aliens. They had seized opportunities, integrated knowledge from multiple sources, and charted their own path forward. And now, Bren asked, what is humanity's long-term goal? You've achieved recognition, established alliances, secured your position. What next? Thomas smiled enigmatically. Survival first, always. But beyond that? Exploration. There are still vast regions of this galaxy, and others that remain unknown. Civilizations to discover, knowledge to exchange, mysteries to solve. The fold gates, Bren realized. You're planning to expand the network. The proposal goes before the Council. Next month, Thomas confirmed. A joint initiative to establish permanent connections between major worlds, with Earth technology as the foundation, but incorporating innovations from all participating species. It was a brilliant strategic move, positioning Earth as the center point of a new galactic infrastructure while fostering goodwill through collaboration. Humans wouldn't just be participants in galactic society, they would be essential to its future development. As they completed their circuit of the garden, a small ceremony was beginning in the embassy's main hall, the induction of the first Novan officers into Earth's interspecies space exploration program. Young Novans who would train alongside humans and other aliens, learning to operate fold gates and navigate the vast unknown regions beyond the galaxy's edge. My grandson is among them, Bren mentioned, watching with pride as the recruits filed in. He speaks 4 human languages now and studies your history obsessively. A worthy pursuit, Thomas replied, though I imagine he's learning the official version rather than the complete one. Isn't that true of all history? Bren asked with knowing amusement. Thomas acknowledged the point with a nod. Perhaps in another 5 years, we'll declassify a few more chapters. Integration is a gradual process. As the ceremony began, Bren reflected on the remarkable journey from that first tense encounter on the lunar base to this moment of cooperation and shared purpose. Humans had appeared suddenly on the galactic stage, revealing capabilities that should have taken millennia to develop. Yet they had managed the transition with surprising diplomacy and restraint. The galaxy had feared Earth for its harsh environment, classifying it as a death world where only the strongest could survive. That assessment had been correct, but incomplete. Earth's true power wasn't its crushing gravity or corrosive atmosphere or extreme temperature variations. It was the species that had conquered those challenges and emerged stronger for it. A species that had taken fragments of alien technology and improved upon them. A species that had watched the galaxy in secret for generations before revealing themselves. A species that had turned potential enemies into allies through careful strategy and selective disclosure. Humans weren't just survivors of a harsh world. They were its masters, forged by its challenges into something the galaxy had never seen before. A species that combined incredible adaptability with strategic patience and technological ingenuity. As Bren watched the ceremony, he understood, finally, why the Council had initially feared humanity's emergence. It wasn't just their surprising technological prowess or their extensive intelligence network. It was the recognition that humans represented something rare in the galaxy, a species that had developed not in isolation or through guidance, but through adversity and necessity, taking fragments from a dozen alien cultures and creating something entirely new. You know, Bren said quietly to Thomas, when we first detected your experiments with the Zenith technology, I sent a message to High Command calling humans dangerous. Thomas smiled. You weren't wrong. No, Bren agreed. But I misunderstood the nature of the danger. I thought it was aggression or expansionism that made humanity threatening. Now I understand it's something else entirely. And what's that? Thomas asked, genuinely curious. Potential, Bran answered simply. Unlimited, unbounded potential. Around them, the young Novan officers pledged themselves to a joint mission of exploration and discovery, standing shoulder to shoulder with humans and representatives from a dozen other species, former rivals now united in common purpose. The galaxy was changing, transforming from disconnected, competing civilizations into something more integrated and harmonious. And at the center of that transformation stood Earth, once feared for its harshness, now respected for its inhabitants. The real threat had never been the planet itself.